All right, moving on to section 6, which is dealing with our factoring, but now we're going to move on to our second part of factoring. So we're going to make these a little bit more complicated. So now we can't just use our diamonds, we also have to use a box along with it. So like the box when we factored it, we're going to use the same thing here. So first we're going to do it without the box and diamond for those of you that want to see that and go, oh, I like how this is done. This is usually called like group factoring. Which we'll talk about in a section in next video or so. But this is one way of doing it. So let's say we have the problem of 6x squared plus 23x plus 7. Okay. So what we want to do here is that we're going to take the first and the last numbers, okay, first and last, and we're going to multiply them together. So 6 times 7 gets us 42. Now when we have the number 42, that's what we find the factors of. So now we have to find the factors of the number 42. Factors of the number 42 that fit in our sum of 23. So that's what we have to find. So factors of 42 would be 1 and 42, 2 and 21, 3 and 14, 4 doesn't work, 5 doesn't work, 6 and 7 would be our other one. So those would be all our factors, and then we'd add them up to get 21. Or 23. The one that does work is 21 and 2. So 21 and 2 would be our two numbers. Now we end up writing it like this. So what we've done is we've taken this middle number and we've broken it up into our 2. We've got 21x and 2x for ours. Okay. So now we're going to take that number and we're going to group the first two numbers and group the second numbers. Now it does not matter which ones get grouped with the middle. You could have put 2x first and 21x second. You'll end up with same answer, fairly close to the same answer. It's still going to be correct in the long run. And what we want to do is we want to find the GFC of each one of those parentheses. So the largest number of the first group, 6x squared plus 21x, is what? Right, it's 3x. So we take a 3x out. Now, in the second one, what's the largest number we can take out? That's right, we can't take anything out. You can't take anything out of the second one. So when you end up taking out your numbers, you take out 1. If nothing comes out, you can take out 1. Now the key thing here is the numbers left over in the parenthesis. And what we want is we want them to be exactly the same. They should be the same. If they're not the same, then we picked the wrong numbers, or we took out the wrong GFCs, or we haven't taken enough greatest common factors out. Those numbers should be exactly the same. Now if those are the same, that's one of your answers. So one of your answers is 2x plus 7. Okay, so one of your answers is 2x plus 7, and your other answer is going to be whatever's left out in front. So this 3x and this plus 1 is the leftovers. That is the other part of your answer. So one answer is what's left over in the parenthesis. The other answer is what is taken out, your greatest common factors. Okay. And that ends up being your numbers. Now, this might seem very confusing. It's all over the place. I ran through it super quick. That's fine, but we're going to be looking at it using a different method or different organization piece. So we're going to do the exact same problem, but we're going to use our box and diamond. So our diamond problems, we're going to do the same thing, but first again, we have to multiply the first and the last numbers. So multiplying 6 and 7 get us 42. That number goes on the top. The middle number still goes on the bottom, so that number doesn't change. It's still 23. So now what two numbers multiplied together gets you 42, but added get us 23? We talked about it on the previous part of this, 21 and 2. So 21 and 2. Now we're going to take those numbers and we're going to put them into a box. Okay. Now here is our box. So this is our diamond or box and diamond method. So this is our original problem. The first number goes in that box right there. The last number goes in that box there, and then the parts from the diamond go in the other two spots with an X. Okay. So our first number goes in the top left, our last number goes in the bottom right. And then the other two spots are our diamonds, and we put the variable, whatever the variable is. In this case, it's x. If the variable was p, then we put p. Okay. So Once we have it set up like this, what we're going to do is we're going to find the greatest common factor of each row in each column. And when we do that, what we should do is we should end up getting our exact answers. So the greatest common factor that can come out of 6x squared and 21x is 3x. Okay. Then we do the same thing with the bottom one. What's the greatest common factor that can come out of 2x and 7? Well, that's 1. We can't take anything out, so we put a 1. And now we do the same thing up and down. What's the greatest thing that can come out of 6x squared and 2x? 2x. What's the greatest thing that can come out of 21x and 7? That would just be 7. Now, if we want to check it, we should multiply and we should get our numbers. 3x plus 2x gets us 6x squared. 1x, or 1 times 7 gets us 7. So as you see, we end up getting our same answers. Okay, that box works out. We factored it correctly. Now our answer is just this and that. And that is our answers. So once we factored it out, we're able to see those are what our numbers are. Okay? All right, we're going to do another example of this. So let's say we have this problem, 5d squared minus 14d minus 3, and we want to find our factors using the box and diamond method. So first thing we have to do is multiply the two numbers to get the top. So take a second and fill out this diamond problem with the top number and the bottom. Okay, so the top number would be negative 15 because we multiply 5 and negative 3. The bottom number ends up being a minus 14. So what two numbers multiplied together get you a negative 14, or negative 15 added together get you a negative 14? That would be negative 15 and positive 1. Okay, that ends up being our answers. So those are going to be the numbers that we're going to use, and they're going to go into our box. Okay. So coming over here, we have our box filled out. Again, the original first term is what goes in the top left. The original last term goes in the bottom right. And then the other two missing spots is the number that we found in our diamond, negative 15d and 1d. Now we want to find the GFC, or the greatest common factor, of each row in each column. So take a second and find the greatest common factor of each row and each column. Remember, you can multiply them back together and you should get the original, you should get what's in the box at the moment. Okay. So with this first one, if we take out the first row, we end up with 5d. So we can take a 5d out of the first one. We can take a 1 out of the second one because nothing comes out. We can take a d out of the first column, and we can take a negative 3 out of the first column. When we multiply all those together, we end up back in our box. So that means that this and this, those are our answers. Okay. All right. Okay, so we just did that problem, this one. So let's look at this example, okay? And take a minute. I want you to try to find the greatest common factors and factor this down, if you can. Okay, so when you factored this, it should have come all the way down. You could take a 2 out, but it should be 2y plus 1 and y plus 3. So with that 2 out front, you might have gotten two different answers. You might have gotten either 4y plus 2 or 2y plus 6. Okay, along with the other one. So you could have gotten 4y plus 2 with y plus 3. Or you would have gotten 2y plus 6 and 2y plus 1. So hopefully when you did your answers, you got either one of these sets. Okay, both of those would be correct if you had either one. They are exactly the same. If you were to multiply them back together, you get back to the original. So sometimes you won't get the exact same answer that somebody else does, but it's still correct. Okay, a way to check it is to multiply it back through, and you should get back to the original. Okay. All right, so here's your homework from this section, section 6. Make sure you complete it. Have any questions, make sure you ask, and that's it.